Picture it, Los Angeles, 2025.
Welcome to Out on the Lanai, the only Golden Girls podcast you're ever going to need to listen to. I am Ernest Borgnine. You know who that is? Academy Award winner, Marty. Thank you. I'm HAlanScott / Sadie Pines. I'll be professional.
I'm Kerri Doherty, and we're back. Oh my gosh, we have so much stuff to talk about. We're back. We are back, everyone. We're back. We're okay. Today, we are so excited to bring you something I've been wanting to do for a while. Fans have requested it. We're doing a bit of an introspective, a deep dive, if you will, into the complicated but always fascinating relationship of Stan and Dorothy Zbornak, a.k.a. Dan and Morothy, a.k.a. Stickman and Moose.
I love Stan so much. I do. And people make fun of me for this, but of all of Dorothy's men, Stan is my favorite.
I will say, I watched, and I highly recommend everybody do this too. I watched all 25 episodes that Stan appeared in. And of course, his one episode of the Golden Palace, which we covered. Which we covered when we did the Golden Palace. After watching all of these, I realized, and I think you did too, that his presence was so rich on the show.
So many episodes.
We can't do this in one episode. Yeah. It's going to take two. So today you're getting part one. Next week we will get part two of... I've learned so much about their relationship from just watching the Stan episodes. Everybody should do it. Just watch the Stan episodes because you really do.
It's an interesting
see
watch.
The evolution of their relationship in such in a way that I'd never noticed before. Things that the writers were dropping.
It's so interesting to watch it because, we're so used to it being, a situation comedy where everything, it just changes every week and there's no ongoing story. But with Stan and Dorothy, there was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about their relationship on the show, but once you do watch those episodes in order, you really can see how the writers were very intentionally giving us a will they or won't they, Ross and Rachel, Sam and Diane kind of thing.
It was the first Ross and Rachel. I guess Sam and Diane came before Golden Girls, but still.
Yeah. And it's not obvious because sometimes they'll take a good chunk of time between a Stan and Dorothy episode. So I'm very, very excited to cover part one today and then dive back in next week for part two. Before we do that, some fun housekeeping.
I'll get the vacuum out.
You love a good vacuum. This week on the Rusty Anchor Happy Hour over in the GG VIP Club on Patreon, we got a little hot goss.
Ooh.
We're going to be talking about an actor from a famous 70s TV show who recently spilled some tea on Betty White and had been waiting a long, long time to do it. And we have some thoughts.
Wait, say her name, though. We have to say her name. Sally Struthers.
Say her name. Sally Struthers.
I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, no, you're not stealing any thunder. So we're going to be talking about that. She had some things to say about other people too.
Also, from this episode, there's a clip in this episode that made me realize we've never done this, which shocked me. And so I was texting with Kerri beforehand that the live show we did at Dynasty Typewriter, not last year, but the year before, 2023, it wasn't, because we did it before our Patreon, so we didn't even think about uploading it anywhere, and we can't upload it on YouTube or anything, unfortunately, because of music and copyright stuff. And there's just stuff in it that there's stuff in it that you can't see in a public forum. So I realized
it's redacted by the government.
Yeah. So I realized, it's all copyright stuff. We would get dinged.
Yeah, no.
But I realized that we've never uploaded it to Patreon. And so if you didn't see the live show and you want to see Alaska Thunderfuck and an amazing performance that she gave and a song that she did and everything, Elliot Glazer, us, Kerri, and I. There's a
Golden Girls trivia costume contest.
So you might, a lot of you who listen to this we're at the show, so you might see yourself. It's
appearances from other Golden Girls podcasters.
That's true. Yeah, it's so much fun. So we're uploading it to our Patreon at the $5 and $8 level, so everyone can see it. You just have to be a Patreon member. Again, we can't put it publicly because of the copyright stuff. But yeah, you should go if you want. No big deal if you don't. But if you want, join the GGVIP club and you can see it there. And you can join for this month and then not join next month, whatever you want. Like if you just want to watch it. It's a good hour and a half of us.
It's
live,
really fun.
Having fun, just being silly, for fun time. So yeah, go watch, go join the Patreon for that.
Yes. And you can do that at patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast. Also coming up in the very near future, I don't want to jinx it because I really hope they still happen. We have 2 very exciting interviews booked that will also be on the Patreon. One is with someone who literally directed some of our favorite episodes, and the other is with a very, very, very memorable guest star.
Oh, you're just going to have to wait and see for that one.
Yep. So again, keep an eye out for that. Join the GGVIP club. Again, even if you only want to do it for a month and then just binge all of the episodes that you want to listen to. Yeah. But for those who do support us every month, we also really, really appreciate you all. Obviously,
yeah, we really do. I mean, especially, let's catch up on these past few weeks, because these past few weeks in Los Angeles here have been... 2025 started, and it was basically Dorothy on the phone saying, "No, I will not have a nice day."
Man. Yeah. It's been, it has been it's been 2 weeks now since the devastating fires in Los Angeles started. I remember being worried about the wind and having a conversation with little Oreos, the fellow parents at the preschool, because the winds were going to get so high. And I was like, is it going to be safe for the kids to play outside? And I felt like I was overreacting. And then all of a sudden, fires start breaking out, and we all had that app where we're getting constant alerts of new evacuation zones, and it was really scary.
As I often, like my mother and family members and everything, whenever there have been fires in the past in Los Angeles, they always say, "Are you close? Are you near it?" Like whatever. Same. And my go-to response always is, if I'm in danger of the fires coming to me, all of Hollywood is burned down, because I'm literally in the center of Hollywood. So like you would know if my apartment was burning down, because that means the Hollywood sign is gone. That said, so it never came near me ever. In years past, fires never ever came near me. And then this last time the fire came near, and it was literally right like a mile down the street, and it happened in the Sunset. They fortunately got it under control pretty quickly, and we were all fine, and there was only a small evacuation, but still it was I remember the morning after it all started, I woke up, and I wake up pretty early because I have to like talk to London and for work stuff, and I'm going to London. All the Golden Girls, UK Golden Girls people. I'm going to be in London at the end of the month, at the end of January. But I woke up, I came out into the living room, and it was early, but the sun was out, but it was so dark in the apartment, and I actually got excited for a second because I thought that mean it was raining. I was like, "Oh, thank God, rain!" And then I looked outside, and it was all just smoke. Like the sky was just dark from smoke. And it was so frightening, because where I live, it's because you're more on the west side, so you got more of the Palisades smoke fire coming your way.
Yeah.
Whereas I got both Palisades, the view of the Palisades, and then the Altadena fire. And I was seeing on both ends, you're seeing this black smoke just cover the city. It's so scary.
Yeah, it was very scary. I remember driving little Oreo home from preschool and just seeing the smoke out in the Palisades, and we packed our bags. We were just being very, very vigilant, and it started moving east, and because there were evacuation zones in the neighborhood right next to us. And when they were on evacuation watch and then the Sunset Fire happened, I don't know about you, I was in such a fight or flight state of hypervigilance that I wasn't sleeping. Stan and I were literally taking turns staying up to watch the app to see if new fires were breaking out, to see if we had to get in the car and leave. So like we did like 2 nights of that. And finally, when the Sunset Fire broke out, I said, we're leaving. And we, Stan's brother drove over. He lives about 15 minutes away. He drove over. We packed up the car. I threw I have one of my dad's Navy jackets from '69, a blanket that my grandma quilted, and I took a picture of my dad from high school. Those are the only sort of those are the only sort of memory related things I had room for. And those things I grabbed at the last minute. I was like, oh my gosh, what if I never see these things again?
Yeah.
And I woke up little Oreo. She was so confused because it was 8:30 at night, and we threw her in the car and we drove 100 miles east all the way out to Palm Desert and Palm Springs. And we took her to a hotel. Lovely area.
Lovely.
I felt so bad though, because when we got there, she woke up and she was confused, and it was so sweet. She was like, we were trying to hype up the idea of a hotel, and we're going to have a sleepover and your uncle's with us. And she just went, I want to go home and sleep in my cribby. And
so
I just
sad.
lost it. And of course, by the time we left, she said, I don't want to go home. I want to stay. I love the elevators.
Yeah.
But but then when we were there, we could breathe. We could actually sleep.
Yeah.
We weren't in that state we were still, of course, checking the app all the time, but we were in that hyper vigilant state that, your body is just filled with cortisol.
Yeah. I wasn't in that state. I mean, I felt one of the things that I don't know if I'm blessed with, I am blessed with this. But I don't have attachments to things. I have nothing that I could not lose that I'd be fine without. So I'm blessed to have that mentality of things go, it's fine. Except for people. And I'm blessed in that we're able, I know if my mother was of course worried about where we would go if we had to evacuate. And that's not a concern. I have friends in Long Beach. I have friends I can go to.
I remember checking in with you. I was like, where will you go? And I also appreciated how calm you were every time I spoke to you over the course of the week.
I mean, I was worried, and I have friends on this people who have been on this podcast. Max Emerson, who was on this podcast, he lost his home, and so in the Palisades, and so it is a troubling thing. But I am grateful that neither of us were impacted in at least a direct way, and that everything, we're safe now. Of course, winds are still a problem, so we still have concerns. What I was thinking about though is if the girls were alive. I mean, B. Arthur's house was in Brentwood. I think Betty White's also was in Brentwood. Estelle Getty famously lived in, I think, New York her last days, but she lived in West Hollywood. But both Betty and B would have been directly impacted because of Brentwood is
they
very
would have
close.
Evacuated. Brentwood was evacuating.
And I also wonder about because I think Betty White had a Malibu home too, didn't she? Or maybe she was more upstate.
No, I think hers
she
was
had a beach house.
Yeah, it was in a town. I can't remember the name of it, but
it probably wasn't in the realm.
It was not in that area, no, because former GG podcast guest from season 1, Demir Kanitsia, a great friend of mine, he was joking that he was going to, he's like, I don't even need to live here anymore. I should just move to this town. And he named the town that Betty's house was in. And I can't remember the name of it, but, and he's like, cause Betty White used to live there.
We're grateful.
Yeah,
we're grateful.
We're very, very grateful. All things considered. Yeah, we both know people who have lost their homes, and that is such a tragic, dire situation to find yourself in. I do feel very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. My home is safe. My family is safe. The air, question mark.
But also another thing that
little Oreo out of preschool, but
of course. But one thing I want to stress for people at home or maybe who don't live in Los Angeles, areas to give and things to give, but also keep in mind that yes, the areas in which the fires hit most are in either very upper class or middle class neighborhoods. Altadena is a middle class neighborhood, but also keep in mind that there are entire industries around the people who lived in those homes, worked for those homes. There are gardeners, there are nannies, there are maids, there are, just local workers who work in those communities who, when you have a subdivision that has homes of those prices, middle class and up, there's a whole industry of people that are employed in maintaining that community, schools, etc.
And not to mention, the local businesses that burn down, schools that have burned down.
I mean, there are so many.
It really is. There's such a
that,
massive effect.
It's massive, and we'll be rebuilding from that on lots of ways, both literally rebuilding, but also economically rebuilding. So, give what you can to organizations you care about. I definitely love the American Red Cross. I also love Project Angel Food here in Los Angeles, which is a vital organization that provides meals to people in Los Angeles, both impacted with health tragedies, but also disaster tragedies. And Project Angel Food is just a wonderful organization. So if you can give, but do some research when you're giving.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for this episode because it's a fun one.
I am too.
And I just got a text message from Alaska that it's okay for us to post something of her, which it's happening in this video. So we're good to go. Let's get to the episode.
Great.
Yay.
And we are back talking about the evolution of the post-divorce relationship between Stan and Dorothy. What are I have my thoughts as someone who just recently watched all the episodes back to back to back to back. And I know you've watched them. You're obviously familiar with them as well. I want to know what are your overall just general thoughts on their post-divorce relationship?
I think I loved, again, going back to what you said at the beginning, watching it from beginning to end, each Stan episode is actually so telling of the growth of their relationship. But what I particularly love about it is that, of course, it started badly, their post-divorce relationship, because obviously she's very hurt. But as the episodes went on, there were episodes where Stan shined, and that there was sort of like a remembrance of the goodness that is in Stan. But then even later, after those episodes, there were moments where Stan fucked up. There were episodes where Stan really screwed up. And I liked that they showed that, because I often think, with people, and I was talking to a friend recently about this who was, being like, I'm done. And I'm like, in life, there's never periods. It's always just ... What are those called? Ellipses? Whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's everything's ellipses, because like, if you live your life as like just a period and it's just done, you close yourself off, I think, to the possibilities of growth and of course, have boundaries and all of the things, but like everything's an ellipses. And with Stan, it was certainly that. And there were good moments and there were bad moments, but Dorothy always accepted him for who he was and recognized that there was good underneath the fuck ups, which I think is such a wonderful, beautiful trait to have as a human being, to understand that even when someone is a fuck up, there's good there too.
I like what you said about the ellipses, because one thing I noticed in a lot of these episodes, which, we'll get into it as we hit them, is that when you are married to someone for a long time and you have children together and you file taxes together, you are tethered to that person for life. You cannot completely cut ties when you do still have those sort of like, I don't want to call them outstanding debts in life, but when you do share those types of things together. The other thing I did notice about just specifically like the evolution of their relationship, the writers really used the first 2 seasons to tell the most rich character stories between Dorothy and Stan. Mm-hmm. And these were the kinds of stories that you can tell when you're, dealing with an older divorced couple with grown children, and if that divorce is a result of infidelity, and you've got nearly 40 years of marriage to unpack. So that's like what we're really seeing in seasons 1 and 2 that I really liked. Yeah. Seasons 3 and 4, we sort of saw Dorothy coming around to Stanley, maybe reconsidering a relationship with him, of course, until he marries Catherine. In season 5, he's really back to being a nuisance, just straight nuisance in season 5. And in season 6, and this is where we really get the will they or won't they, where you wait forever to get them together. Season 6 is when we finally get Dorothy and Stan on the same page. Because up until that point, it's been Stan pining after Dorothy, she's not into it. Dorothy pining after Stan, he's getting married. And now finally in season 6, they're both into each other. They're both single. This is where they almost get remarried.
Yeah.
And then by season 7, which of course they don't, and by season 7, he's back to being a nuisance who's once again overstepping, boundaries in Dorothy's life, even on her wedding day.
Yeah. Sleeps with her sister.
Yes, I know. So, which I also feel like people really liked that dynamic between them. I feel like the fans really liked it where, she'd slam the door on his face and he'd come over needing help, pitching something, a new business venture. Oh, I need support. Oh, she left me, Dorothy. Always crying. I lost it all.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of the stand that they got back to by the end of the series. And, we'll get into the finale, the series finale next week, and Stan's
you also
final moment.
I mean, that final moment with Stan is one of my favorite moments on this show ever, especially when she's in that toilet paper wedding dress. One of the things that I do also find fascinating in watching these episodes in order is, and I've always said this, season 1 and season 2 of the Golden Girls is very much old school 70s, 80s television. It's the Norman Lear effect of television in that there were moments that they allowed for drama. There were moments where they allowed for emotional depth in a story. You saw it on Cheers a lot. You saw it on Cosby Show, of course. You saw it in a very special moment, if you will, of an episode. And then as 3, 4, 5, and the rest of the series goes on, there are less of those. It becomes more traditional sitcom that you saw in the late 80s and 90s on television. And it's interesting to watch because, there aren't very many shows that are that popular that sort of had that trajectory of being on the air during those periods. I think of a show that came on that was very popular during the run of the Golden Girls was Murphy Brown, started in 87, 88, but that pretty much stayed in its same tone throughout. You know what I mean? It's from season 1 and season 10, it kind of stayed the same. Whereas Golden Girls really changed, and it allowed for lots of different types of stories to be told, which makes it a really fun viewing experience.
Yeah, because you're like, wait, what am I feeling? Do I want to watch The Transplant, or do I want to watch Case of the Libertine Belle?
Yeah.
I hear you. And then the last thing that we'll get to next week is we will also talk about Stan's one appearance on the Golden Palace, because
you have to.
It has a really wild fan theory attached to it that I'm very excited to talk about. But
also, Hulu, we have to speak because you took the Golden Palace off Hulu, and I find it offensive.
They did?
Yes, they did.
Everybody, let's write them a letter, tweet at them, Instagram at them, TikTok at them, do all the things at them. All right.
For the next 75 days, TikTok at them.
Yeah. So in the pilot, even though we're going to start with season 1, the pilot, even though Stan is not in this episode, we do learn quite a bit about him in this episode.
He's in it. He's in it.
He's not in it, but he's in it.
Yeah.
We learned that Dorothy and Stan had a shotgun wedding. And we learned that he left Dorothy 38 years later for a flight attendant he met on a business trip to Hawaii, and they now live in Maui.
Wait, what did Rose call a shotgun? A blowgun wedding? Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They had a blowgun wedding or whatever it was. Yeah.
I forget.
Sorry for implanting that.
No, that's
confusion.
Okay. We're strolling down memory lane here. Another thing I noticed, especially in season 1, there are so many jokes and runners about Stan and Dorothy having a bad sex life. It's just one thing I noticed.
You can I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but you can kind of see some people and be like, they ain't doing it right. You know what I mean? You could just see some couples and just know that those Legos do not connect.
Well, Stan seems to blame Dorothy, and Dorothy seems to blame Stan. So what do we think is going on here?
I think there are two things happening. I think both are probably bad, but Dorothy is repulsed by the idea of it and is just like, just go watch TV. And Stan is hyper about it and thinks he's great at it, which then, of course, he never lives up to how great he says he is, because no one ever can.
Yeah, that might be what's going on. I don't know, but it is a runner. So his first appearance is in season 1, episode 2, Guess Who's Coming to the Wedding, which is such a big Dorothy-Stan episode right out the gate of this television show. So Dorothy hasn't seen Stan since the divorce, which, you know, she obviously is harboring a lot of anger and animosity.
Yeah.
And she has no intention of seeing him until her daughter Kate comes to visit and announces she's eloping to the Bahamas. And Dorothy's like, no, you're going to have the wedding here. And this means that, of course, Kate wants Stan to be there too, which I feel like Kate saw the writing on the wall. She's like, I'm just going to elope to the Bahamas because I don't want my parents to kill each other in a room over my cake.
Yeah.
Which was probably a smart idea, Kate.
Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah. So the entire episode is Dorothy so hard trying to hold it together and keep the peace. Like she has so much anger in her. She's literally growling like a feral
dog.
Have you ever
had a
and nearly breaking
like
the hands of her best friends?
Where you have to deal with someone that you hate?
I don't, hate is a very strong word. I have a really hard time letting go of like when I feel like I need to hammer something home with somebody and it's in my brain, I know like they're just not going to get it. And this is, they could if they wanted to and they don't want to. And this is, I'm just spinning my wheels. I sometimes really, really hard. Like I want someone to see my point so badly that I'll be driving and I'll have like pretend conversations with them in the car where I'm saying everything that I want to say, but I know I can't because telling them is pointless. So I have that and it is like based in anger.
I have found that when I'm around someone that I very much dislike, I become very funny because there was one time, an example of this. I was at Disneyland with Michael and his sister, and we were meeting a friend of ours. And that friend also brought a friend of theirs that I did not know. And this person became the most annoying person I've ever met in my life, to the point where it made me question my friendship with the person we were there, because I was like, how are you friends with this person? Because they are that horrible. They are that annoying. And to control, because I will admit, I do have a problem hiding it. Like I have a problem, like I don't have a good poker face. You know what I mean? And so if I dislike you, you're going to know it. So what I do then is I channeled my dislike of this person that was thoroughly annoying on a level that I have never met anyone since that was this annoying. I then just kept cracking jokes about how much I hated this person to Michael's sister. And I just kept holding on to her and whispering to her everything horrible that would probably get me canceled if it was public. But I was just saying all of the bad things so that my face then could be at rest when I looked at this person and they would not know how much I hated them and thus not make it awkward for my actual friend that they're friends with. And there was a moment where they said they had to leave early, and I got very excited, and I then said, okay, great, see you later. And we just left. We just left them to leave.
So you were the Dorothy and Michael's sister was Blanche and Rose's hands that you were squeezing the whole time so that you could keep on that front. Very good. God, very good.
So I'm going to send you a picture of her.
Okay, please. Of who?
The person
Michael's sister?
No, the person I hate.
Oh, the person you hate? Okay, please do. Send it to me right now.
I can't right now. I'll have to look for it.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is Dorothy really trying to keep all of the anger in this whole episode. She refers to him as a dirtbag, a yellow belly sleazeball. At one point, she throws uncooked rice in his face. Like she hates Stan. And just because we are doing this sort of introspective about their relationship, I do want to play his very first entrance, the very first time Stan comes to the front door on Richmond Street, because it's history. Stan's first appearance.
Hi, it was real. Dorothy, it's Stan. Didn't you recognize me?
Of course I recognized you. That's why I slammed the door in your face.
Still the jokester, huh, Dorothy?
And speaking of jokes, Stan, That is some toupee you've got.
What's funny about this is the way in which, instead of opening the door, Dorothy has this beautiful pink sort of lacy thing on. She looks great in it. Probably wore it 14 times on the show. And she opens the door, and instead of reacting, like facially reacting to the person she's, being like, or whatever, she literally just opens it and then shuts it and then walks away and then casually turns around like, okay, you rang again. I'll shut the door on you again. Like,
she also casually just walks away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so great. I also love, this is the introduction of the toupee jokes. We meet Stan and his toupee at the same time. It's a great runner throughout the series. Yeah. So yeah, she's having a hard time not reacting to all of his passive aggressive insults and stuff. And then she gets really great advice from Sophia about how holding on to anger is unhealthy. And we've seen so much anger. It really is to hold on to anger. Like it ages you, it makes you sick. So Dorothy unloads on Stanley in the best way. And it's so cathartic and amazing. And for a minute, I was like, I really want to play this entire monologue because it's so great. It really gives you the full context of their relationship up until the divorce, because we got 38 years to unpack here. Yeah. But like copyright, we would get dinged. We can't play the whole thing.
Well, so wait, don't even say it yet. Because what we're going to do in order to play this is going to happen after this break. And you're going to die. You're going to die. We'll set it up, but you're going to die with what we're about to play for you. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. We need to take a break.
Okay.
I mean, as promised, we needed to build up this moment because you're right. We couldn't play the full clip. That's too much to play. You can't play that much. So like, what were we to do, Kerri? How are we going to play this?
Well, I figured the next best thing is to get an amazing, incredible performer who can do the entire monologue with the beautiful spirit of Dorothy Zbornak.
Yes.
Which is exactly what Alaska Thunderfuck did at our last live show here in Los Angeles. Dressed like Dorothy Zbornak. You have to watch the video version of this. You can do that on Patreon, or you can do it on YouTube next week.
We'll post it to Instagram as well. You'll see part of it on Instagram as well. So like, but you go watch wherever you can watch it.
Go watch it. Let's play it. This is an Emmy winning performance.
And just to say, if you want to see the full live show that we did, you can go to our Patreon. You can watch everything, and even Alaska's song that she did and everything there. So yes, but this is Alaska Thunderfuck doing Dorothy Zbornak.
You walked out on me, Stanley Zbornak. You walked out on me and you didn't even have the decency to tell me you were leaving. I had to hear it from some lawyer over the telephone. A stranger, a total stranger, told me my marriage was over. Things happened. You're damn right, things happened. 38 years happened. 38 years of sharing and crying and dreaming and fighting and loving and children and diapers and school plays and Little League and worrying if you'd get through your gallbladder surgery. Wondering if I'd get through another Sunday dinner at your mother's house. And the lean years when the business failed. And the good years. And the happy Christmases. All of those things happened, Stanley. And because they happened, I deserve more than a stinking phone call from my husband's legal representative. You had a choice, Stanley, and you took the easy way out, and it was a rotten thing to do. But now, Now you're here in front of me. You can't run away. And I finally get to have what you tried to cheat me out of. I finally get to say, goodbye, Stanley. Ah! I said, goodbye, Stanley.
I mean, it's just perfect. It's
a really good performance.
If you're listening to this, in your car or whatever, you need to know that Alaska was not reading this off of a script. Alaska was not on stage. There was no cue cards. There was nothing. Alaska just knows this monologue. Just knows it.
Alaska was acting.
And actually, if you want to see Miss Thunderfuck acting, and you're in the New York City area, you can go see the Liza Minnelli produced,
Drag the musical.
Because that's where Alaska currently is. So please go see that if you are in the New York region. But yeah, but she just knows it. She just knows that.
Yeah, it's a great monologue. That was a great performance. And wow, there was so much to unpack there. One other thing that we learn in a later season is that Stan married Chrissy 1 week after his divorce from Dorothy was finalized.
That's something my dad would do. My dad did that, actually. Yeah. It's icky. It's icky.
So
it's
Dorothy's
icky.
anger is completely warranted.
I would be pissed. I would be very pissed.
And, even though this is literally episode 2 and we're just getting to know these characters, you can feel the weight of her pain through that monologue. And it just goes to show how amazing the writers were, how amazing the actors were. Again, episode 2, this is the first time we're meeting Stan, but we felt that 38 years. We felt that pain of that divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also love that Dorothy didn't give Stanley the opportunity to defend himself. Like he started to say something and she's like, I said goodbye, Stanley.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't want to hear it.
But she said the way she said it was like, I said goodbye, Stanley. Like it was like a school teacher, or it's like a librarian saying, I said it's time to leave.
Yeah. I think that was the anger subsiding a little bit to sort of the vulnerable rawness and the sadness.
Yeah.
Because her eyes are filled with tears at the end of that monologue.
There's a lot of sadness there.
Yeah. And he actually respects that and he just leaves. And, then of course, by the end of the episode, we're really seeing what the show is about, which is these 4 women always propping each other up and supporting each other, through good times and bad.
Yeah.
So that's Stan's first appearance. That's a big one, as is his second appearance in season 1, episode 11, The Return of Stan. And this kind of represents that moment where you've had some time from your ex, you've had some closure, maybe some of your anger has subsided, and then you bump into each other and you have a couple of drinks and you end up hooking up and it's a little messy.
Because there is nothing like that familiar sex. The kind of person who's seen every hole.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure Dorothy said that.
Yeah.
He's seen every hole. So
I mean.
Why did I make my Dorothy sound like the character I do when I'm playing with my daughter?
You went there.
I went there. So it's been a while since they've seen each other.
Yes.
Dorothy describes the current status of their relationship as, quote, a bitter divorce that time has softened into a hostile relationship.
Which is so accurate.
It's very accurate. It's incredibly accurate. So Stan pops by, not socially, of course, because he never pops by socially. He always wants something. He always needs something. He needs something.
Yeah.
And in this case, he needs Dorothy's signature in order to sell a piece of property they bought while on their honeymoon in Florida, where they planned on retiring someday.
Yeah.
Dorothy's not happy to see him. She doesn't want to hang out with them. She's like, oh, fine. Sure. Because she's going to get something out of it. She's going to get some money when they sell it.
Yeah.
And she's like, fine, let's just get this over with. And they have to go to a notary. It's a whole thing. They stop for lunch. She doesn't even want to eat. She's like, I'm just going to have coffee. You can tell she's just like, let's wrap this up, please.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you've shared finances and children with someone. You're just
things
tied
that you have to,
things that you have to do when the IRS is auditing you, when your children come to you with their problems because somebody cheated or they don't have a job.
Yeah.
This is also the episode where we learn that the reason that Stan and Dorothy got married in the first place is because he knocked her up, and he knocked her up because he got her drunk. Which
uncomfortable, but also not shocking for the time.
No.
Yeah.
And it also provides jokes throughout the series. Every time Stan's annoying Dorothy, she says things like, one beer and I'm paying for it for the rest of my life. Or one sperm with a sense of direction and I'm paying for it for the rest of my life. Like, they have those jokes also throughout the series.
Or the very disturbing line of she said, when I woke up, that
that was Sophia. Where she said Sal used to do things when I was asleep too, and he made that joke.
But you know what's interesting about Dorothy getting knocked up and the whole thing is that, like, out of all of the women, everyone turns to Dorothy as the sensible, rational, put together, has her shit together one. She is the one, which is what I find so fascinating about the character of Dorothy Zbornak, is that she has this past that isn't put together, that isn't rational, that doesn't make sense, that's kind of messy, that's very messy. And yet she's supposed to be the non-messy one. She's supposed to be the rational one. And so it gives an edge to Dorothy that the other characters don't have, because we know this past, because of Stan's presence in her life. We know that there are things about Dorothy that aren't all that great, that aren't perfect, that aren't, whatever. And yet now you can look at Dorothy and be like, she's pretty perfect. She has basically a stable job, good friends, good relationship. She's living her life. She's doing her things. But back then, nope. Everything was messy.
Well, that was me. I was such a messy teenager. Some of the shit I did, I'm like, I've told Stan, I'm like, I'm lucky to be alive with some of the shit that I did. Getting into cars with dudes I didn't know, letting them drive me to a state park on federal land with nothing to see for miles. Like, I know that face. Yes, that's the face you should make. I was messy as fuck when I was a teenager, but I'm so put together now. I'm so boring.
I just added you as a backup contact for my phone.
I'm an emergency contact.
Yeah, because
it's good that 2025 Kerri is an emergency contact and not 1998 Kerri. You don't want that.
If someone steals my phone and I need my data back, I have to go to you. I literally had the point of, okay, who are the people in my life that I know are going to be around until I'm at least 70? And so it was you and Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was it.
I'm your emergency contact.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to keep going. This may end up being a 3-parter, guys. I'm not going to lie.
Is it really?
So while they're out eating, Stan admits that Chrissy left him for a younger man. She left me, Dorothy. And Dorothy, who actually knows how that feels. This is how you can tell that Dorothy's anger has subsided. She doesn't gloat. She's the bigger person. She's actually really sympathetic. Mm-hmm. And that sympathy leads to she's holding him, he's crying, they're drinking, they're at a hotel room, they slept together. Dorothy is like, this is a one-time thing. She's all like Taylor Swift, we're never going to marry together.
Yeah.
But for Stan thinks that this is the start of, quote, a wonderful new beginning.
Because Stan equates love with sex. Dorothy doesn't at this point. I
also think that this is the start of seeing Stan as someone who, like Glenn, doesn't do well with being alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because anytime Stan gets dumped, he runs to Dorothy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he runs to her whenever he has a problem. He doesn't like to be alone. And so I think it's like, Chrissy left me. Well, what are my options? Dorothy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Which is pretty typical of men, especially of that era.
Yeah. And she says to him, she's like, yo, you cheated on me. We're divorced. He's actually a little convincing. And this is what we will see in this series, the weak spot for Dorothy with Stanley is when he gets nostalgic.
Yep.
Because he's like, he always reminds her of the good times. He's like, look, you know, the fact that we even ended up together, it just means there's still something between us. He's like, you know, we could do what we always dreamed of doing. Take a cruise, open up that antique shop like we wanted to, build the home we always dreamed of. Let's not sell the property. And he's getting into her brain, and he's sort of reminding her of like the dream they once had, and they can still have that. And for a minute, she's actually like, oh, I don't know, maybe. But ultimately, she's smart. She comes to her senses.
Well, and he does that time and again in other future episodes too. Like he just, even in the one that we have a clip for coming up, is that like he gets nostalgic with her, and it gets in her head.
That is her crypt. That is Dorothy Zbornak's kryptonite, is Stan's nostalgia.
I think it's a lot of people's kryptonite. There's comfort there in someone who's known you your entire life.
Yeah, there is. I think it's why people have remained friends with childhood friends who maybe it doesn't make sense to be friends with them anymore because they were the people in your life during your most formative years, and they know you better than anybody else, you know, even though you have nothing in common anymore. I was like, because that applies to everybody.
I know. I was like, do we need to talk, Kerri?
I know. Maybe we should talk offline. No, I am estranged from my childhood best friend, sadly. Oh. That's another podcast. We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So Dorothy goes to his hotel room to break it off, and then this is where we meet Chrissy. Chrissy comes, I needed to stick, man.
What a great actress. I have been trying to locate her. It is hard.
I know. We've been looking. So if anybody thinks that's the guest star we have lined up, it's not. It's not. So, but I think you're right that Stan does equate sex with love, because he admits that his relationship with Chrissy is superficial and all about sex, and yet he married her.
I mean, and that's how, like, I don't mean, like, of course sex is love, but, like, I mean, men become crazy when they're like, oh, I can have sex with this person for like a long time and they're hot. That means they love me. Like they get weird about it. And it's like, Dorothy can understand, like, okay, we had this hookup, let's move on.
Yeah. I do think it's, again, I know that Dorothy isn't really looking for any kind of like payback from Stan, but the fact that Chrissy's like, I want to get back together, Stan. And he's like, no, I love Dorothy. And then Dorothy's like, oh, I don't want to have anything to do with you. And he has to go chase down Chrissy. There must have been part of her that was like, oh, that was kind of fun to watch. Like him squirming. And I rejected him. But it has no effect on her because she already made that decision. No. So that's it for season 1, Stan. We get 2 really, really big, great character stories between the 2 of them. So then when we get into season 2, his third appearance is season 2, episode 3, Take Him, He's Mine. This poses that question of, what do you do when your ex tries to date one of your friends? And you kind of act like you're cool with it, but you're not really cool with it.
I mean, that one we covered recently, right? In one of the episodes. I forget which one, but we did that one recently. Might have been a live watch along.
I think it might have been a live watch along. Yes, it was a live watch along, which again, patreon.com/goldgirlspodcast.
Yeah.
So
that one's pretty. That was along the same lines as a lot of first season 1 episodes, in that, like, you know, it really was more of a story between Dorothy and Blanche.
It really was. But so in this one, this is where Stan's at an all-time low because him and Chrissy just got divorced. He lost his business. And something we also see multiple times on this show is Dorothy getting ready to go out on a date and Stan coming over and needing her and then trying to guilt her into meeting his needs. And this time she says no, and she pushes him on Blanche instead.
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course, we know that him and Blanche hang out and Dorothy gets jealous. We get the great moment at the grocery store. Then why are you sleeping with my husband?
Yeah.
One notable thing I have to say about this episode, at one point, Dorothy says to Stan, you truly are one chromosome away from being a potato.
So good.
Which this is the start of the potato runner within their relationship. I'm telling you, I'm like seeing like the Zodiac, like encrypted. It's all like coming into focus for me when I watch these. Because later he'll get rich off of his Zborny invention, you know, which is the baked potato opener. And then he also proposes to Dorothy by putting her ring in a scalding hot baked potato. So it's just like it's fun. It's fun. They're setting up baked potatoes.
It's fun.
So
I just had a baked potato tonight for dinner.
Oh, how was it? What'd you put on it?
Sour cream and chives and butter. And it was delicious. And salt and pepper.
Oh,
and it was
no
delicious.
cheese.
No, I don't do cheese on it.
Okay.
And also because I had chili alongside of it and I had some cheese in that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I like that. I like that combo.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that's
and then
nice.
And then I take one of my favorite snacks, a saltine cracker.
Mm.
And I don't crumble it up. I take and I use it's almost like a dip. Like I'm using the chili as a dip. And I take my spoon and I spoon a little bit on a saltine cracker and then I eat it like it's like an hors d'oeuvre. And it's just and it's just dinner time fun. I'm essentially, me and Oreo are basically that we eat the same.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because she also jokes. She calls everybody baked potato lately. So you and her are on some levels. Yeah. She just calls people baked potato.
Yeah.
The thing I loved about this episode is Dorothy's realization that, it's her having this realization that, like, even though she's not with Stan anymore, when the idea of him dating someone that she knows, it almost feels like it's going to take all that stuff away that she did have with Stan.
Yeah.
It was nice.
There was a level of her being replaced by someone she loves as well, and that's a hard thing. I get that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So moving on to Stan's fourth appearance, which was season 2, episode 13, The Stan Who Came to Dinner. This is Dorothy's attempt at creating some boundaries for Stan and to also help him cope with being alone, which again, we know, like we're seeing, it's really, really hard for him. The Hulu description for this episode is Dorothy feels sympathy for Stan, which I'm like, that feels like every episode he shows up in.
Yeah.
And again, just like the last episode, he shows up while she's getting ready to go on a date. And, his timing is terrible. This is when Stan needs bypass surgery. And I'm assuming at this point he's like moved to Miami.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems like he divorced Chrissy and stayed there.
And probably moved to Miami.
Be close to Dorothy. So let's be real.
Yeah, seriously. Because, at this point, I'm like, he's really flying here a lot.
In a weird way, too, it kind of makes sense because if the kids come visit, like, it makes sense. He probably likes Miami. They have a home. They bought a home there previously. Well, they were supposed to
retire there. They honeymooned there.
I'm sure there was more to it than just Dorothy.
Yeah. And the night before his surgery, when he thinks he's going to die, this is where Stan unloads all of his secrets to Dorothy. And we learned that he cheated on her before Chrissy.
At that point, doesn't matter.
No, I think at this point she knows.
Yeah.
Because we learn later that during their first wedding anniversary, she thought she saw lipstick on his collar and he showed up late and without a gift. So I think maybe, she's always known, which is probably why she's not upset. And she's just like, sure, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And then... he ends up living at their house for 2 months after his surgery, which is so crazy. And again, Dorothy is like, she's clearly at a point where she's really sympathetic for him. And you can really tell her anger has dissipated because she's, giving him advice. She's like, look, I was scared and alone when you dumped me. I survived. You will too. And she's like, look, you can't run over here every time you have a problem. I'm not your mother. I'm not even your wife anymore, which he doesn't take that advice at all.
Yeah.
So Stan's 5th appearance is season 2, episode 23, Son-in-Law Dearest. And what I love about this episode is that we see Dorothy and Stan being that parenting team that they were when their kids were younger. They give advice. We're there to listen. They're there to listen.
Yeah.
And we'll see this dynamic again in a later season when Michael returns home without a job or a wife. How do you feel like when Kate is like, yeah, Dennis cheated on me, with Dorothy having Stanley there, how much of Dorothy's anger and sort of protectiveness of Kate do you feel like is fueled by her own experiences with Stan cheating on her?
Oh, I think a lot. I think a whole lot. But I also think it gives her a bigger picture of how to communicate with her daughter because she's lived through so much of it.
Yeah.
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 And that's it for season 2. And then diving into season 3, his 6th appearance was season 3, episode 8, Brotherly Love. This kind of goes back to Take Him, He's Mine. Instead of Stan dating Blanche, it's Dorothy dating Stan's brother.
Yeah. Who is impotent.
Yeah. The gentleman at table 5 in the blue suit is impotent. Bon appetit.
That's literally the episode. Nothing else
That's
matters.
literally the whole episode. It's just a reversal of the Blanche one. Stan's 7th appearance is season 3, episode 10, The Audit, which has the loudest line ever delivered on the series. You bought a car without telling me.
Oh, so good.
So, yeah, it's when he's being audited by the IRS, which, again, just goes to show when you're married to someone and you file
Isn't
joint
the one where he
taxes.
goes Paisan and the bald?
Yes,
yeah.
it's the one where he does Paisan.
Yeah.
This is also the introduction of Stan being bad with money, of like him being a big dreamer.
Which, shocker.
Yeah, shocker. He's bad with money. And Dorothy was always good with money. So, that's basically that episode. Also, I noticed in this episode, she says, I could vomit just looking at you. Yeah. And then in the next episode, she also says, I could vomit just looking at you to Stan. She literally says it to him twice.
It's a good line. Let her have it.
So his 8th appearance is season 3, episode 17, My Brother, My Father. This is a big episode because it is this episode for the first time we are actually seeing Dorothy Zbornak start to come around to Stan's
one of
advances.
The best Dorothy-Stan episodes.
It's so good. This is one where Uncle Angelo comes for a visit. They have to pretend to be married. And, at one point, Dorothy's sleeping in her room and Angelo brings Stan in. He's like, you got to sleep in here.
And Blanche is collecting lingerie for needy, sexy people.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I do want to play the moment. Again, it goes back to the nostalgia of Stan really.
He gets her.
That's how he gets her. So that's when he's like singing.
Wait, what was the thing he said
he's
about
singing Gershwin in bed?
Wait, yeah, when they're in bed, but then she goes, I'm familiar with the whatever. What was
he
the
goes
line?
he's like, oh wait, you got to let me do my big finish or whatever. And she's like, I'm familiar with it. Or like
so
the big thing or whatever.
It's so good.
So yeah, he's singing to her, unraisable
you.
And it's kind of working.
And then at the end of the episode, she has.
And at the very end of the episode, because he's like, let's do it, let's get back together. And she's like, no. And then Uncle Angelo is like, I'm not really a priest. And he's like, yeah, no, I was just joking.
Yeah.
So let's play this final moment between them. This is the moment she turns.
Stan, about what you said.
Hey, Dorothy, I was kidding. It was a joke.
That's what I figured.
Well, you didn't think I meant it, did you?
No, of course not.
Of course not. I'm strictly cheerleaders, wild parties, and hot tubs.
Stan, before I forget, a deal's a deal. Here's your 50.
That's okay, Sophia. This one's on the house.
So good. I loved it. I love those little moments. Those little moments where, because I love Stan. And those little moments where you see the person under the schmuck. And he's just like a little teddy bear.
Yeah, I'll give it to them. He was lovable.
Yeah.
And then this is sort of the cliffhanger that they end their relationship on for this season, which again, it's like, and you've got audiences going like, wait a minute, is something going to happen here? And it's not as obvious, I think, as some of the will they or won't they storylines on sitcoms.
I agree. And this is a perfect place for us to end this episode because it gets season 4 and on. Goes back to what I was saying before about that sort of like the sitcoms of the 90s that we were familiar. It changes tone. The show and the relationship changed tone going on in season 4. So I think this is a perfect place to say, see you next week.
Yeah, to say, I said goodbye, Stanley. Wait, how did she say it?
Wait, no, I'll do the golden takeaway send off for that. I said, we're going to be right back with the golden takeaway, Kerri.
Oh, that was good.
Thank you. And we are back with our golden takeaways, which is a nugget of truth or inspiration that you can apply to your lives or the lives of our listeners. Kerri, what's your golden takeaway for this episode?
My golden takeaway is prenup. Always a prenup. Even if you are the most in love and you trust your partner more than anything. Stan and I got a prenup. It was the most awkward thing in the world. We had to have like a sit down with like my lawyer and his lawyer, who we literally just, one of us found a lawyer. And then we were like, do you have any friend lawyers that do this too? And she's like, I have a friend. And so like we sat across from each other, and it was the weirdest thing having the conversation. But like, I'm so glad that we did it. And the lawyer was like, look, this is the kind of thing, like take these papers, bury them out in the backyard, and then hope that you never have to dig them up. But yeah, get a prenup. It makes things way less messy, and it doesn't mean that you think your relationship is going to fail. Yeah. It just means in the, whatever the divorce statistic, 1/3 chance or whatever, that it is going to fail. It's easy for everybody. So exactly. I love Stan. We're going to be together forever, but we got a prenup.
Yeah, totally. My golden takeaway from this episode is that whenever there's someone who's kind of a schmuck, just recognize that there's a person there. That not everyone is. There's a great moment. There's a great film called Rachel Getting Married with Anne Hathaway. Yes. And there's a moment that I often think about with bad people, with people who are like fuck-ups. And she was definitely a fuck-up in that movie. And she says something. So in the film, there was a horrible accident that led to the death of a child. It was really tragic stuff. And it was all because of her alcoholism and her problems and like a lot of things. And she says something in the film because she goes back for a wedding, and obviously people are uncomfortable with her because of her past. And she says something in the film that has stayed with me forever. And it says, I'm paraphrasing, but she says something like, how many times do I have to apologize before it's okay? And like that to me is such a powerful line of that we aren't the makings of our worst day. You know what I mean? Like who we are is not a reflection of just that one day that we did something horrible, or the many times we did something horrible, or whatever it is. Like people are nuanced. Humans are weird beings. And because we have these brains that allow us to connect with each other, we can sometimes do very weird and sometimes hurtful things. And I just want to say, even the worst people in the world have a story. And so lead with empathy, and you'll be surprised at what you might find.
Wow. I think you may have just, there's a Stan hater out there that was like, you know what, maybe I have been a little harsh on him. But like, we should also caveat, this applies to everybody but Miles, correct?
Oh yeah. Fuck Miles though.
Fuck Miles. Fuck Miles. I can't wait for I cannot wait for our Fuck Miles series. Oh, our Fuck Miles series is going to be so good.
For anyone watching, you just saw me give the middle finger to Miles. I realized I can't give the middle finger confidently. I don't have a hand, like my hand, I don't want to do it because I don't want people to see it, but I don't have a hand that like is good for the middle finger. It just looks like I'm hailing a cab or something.
No, you got to do it right. You can be confident. It's all about the way. See, you're sticking your arm up. It's got to be an out. Ready? Watch it. No. Yeah. You're hesitating. Here, this, ready? And it's in the face too.
Even that, I can't, it doesn't work for, I don't think I can.
My hands are red.
I don't think I can do that. Like I can't. It's like when someone. I posted a video of this the other day. There are some words that I, as a homosexual, cannot say, and one of it's bro, man. Like when people say thanks, man. Like it just sounds like I'm like playing a part. Thanks, man. Like I can't. I don't have. It's like it is like I'm homosexually not allowed to say that. Like it's a disability. I should get a disabled parking situation because I can't say the words man, dude, bro. Like I just can't.
I don't think that you should get your own special parking spot for that, but do me a favor. Try to instead say thanks, ma'am.
Oh, I can, ma'am. Thanks, ma'am.
Because that sounds nice.
But exactly, but thanks, ma'am, is what a Southern sissy would say, and so
I know
that sounds right to me.
In any scenario in which you would say thanks, man, just replace it with ma'am.
Oh my God. You want me to get beat up? Because if I said that to a dude, let's say a dude, like a person at like the gym or something, and when a straight man or a man would say, to the guy who like just I don't know, gave him some sort of heavy weight or something, he would be like, thanks, man. And they would have that understanding of their penises are long. I don't have that. I perpetually look like someone who has a small penis. And so if I said thanks,
do you
ma'am,
hate me? Because you're being really funny right now.
No. If I said thanks, ma'am, to the person at the gym, I would get beat up. Thanks, ma'am.
All right. This is what's going to solve your problem once and for all. You go the Super Troopers route and you say, thanks, meow.
Thanks, meow.
Thanks, meow.
Yeah. Or what if I go the Sophia route of bacon, lettuce, what does she say? Bacon, lettuce, potato. And
there you go.
And I just say it really fast. So instead of saying thanks, man, I'm like, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks,
man.
Yeah.
Oh, and then,
bacon, lettuce, potato.
Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, wow. Okay, that's me.
Just do what Sophia would do and call him a dumb bachicaloop.
Thanks, you dumb bachicaloop.
Then you'll really get beat up.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that was a great golden takeaway. I've had a blast. I'm so glad that we're back.
We'll be back with more Stan next week. And I'll be in you're hearing this, I'm still in LA, but if you're listening to this when it comes out, but I'll be in London at the end of January. So if you have tips or if there's anything golden that I should do, Golden Girls related in London, I'm very busy. I have lots of things going on. But if there are, please do slide into the DMs.
Like performing for the Queen.
Yes, she's dead.
Yeah.
But well,
I didn't say which one.
True.
Latifah. What is that?
You know, we need to get what's his name, the director. We follow each other, we message each other, the director of Bringing Down the House that Betty White was in. I know him and he will be on the podcast. And
great, we'll have him for
speaking of Queen Latifah.
Oh God, it is so good to be back. We've missed you all. I've missed you. Yes, we will be back next week with part 2 of our the evolution of Stan and Dorothy's relationship, and I'm so excited. And thank you all so much for listening. And remember, you can check out the GGVIP Club over on patreon.com/Golden Girls Podcast. It's free to sign up. There is lots of fun stuff on the free account, but you do get most of the stuff at the $5 and $8 a month tier. And where can people follow us and who are we a part of?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. We are a part of Moguls of Media, and you should go watch I'm delirious right now. It's been the longest day possible. You have no idea. Moguls of Media, go watch my good friend Naomi Smalls on this season of Race Chaser with Alaska and Willem. They're recapping the current season of RuPaul's Drag Race, and I just want everyone to go listen and watch and support Mom in all the ways, but particularly the importance of supporting someone who loves this podcast as much as we love them, Naomi Smalls. So please go watch Race Chaser. And you can follow us on social media at Golden Girls Pod on Twitter, out on the Lanai Official on Instagram, Golden Girls Pod on Facebook, and I am HAlanScott /Sadie Pines on everything. In fact, on my social media, I'm going to be doing, what are you laughing at? I'm going to be
laughing at the way you said Moguls of Media.
How did I say it?
Mogul. I don't know, moguls.
Oh God. I'm going to be.
You said it when it was like when in Finding Nemo, when Ellen as Dory is trying to call the whales and she's like, oh. I'm waking up my child right now.
Oh wow. No, I was going to say, if you want to see, I'm going to be posting on my subscriber on Instagram, like subscriber one. It's only $2.99. I'm going to be posting all my London stuff, like the annoying stuff that I would not post publicly normally, the food stuff, all the stuff. So you can go subscribe there too.
Amazing. And you said you did your socials? All right. I'm Squiddy Squid on Twitter and Squidsy on Instagram, not on TikTok. I think that's it. What a fun night.
And as always.
Nope.
Oh, wait. I need to change it in the script because I'm literally reading it in the script and always. And remember.
As always.
Stay golden.
Stay golden. You've done this before.
I need a snack.
It's not your first rodeo.
Out on the Lanai is not endorsed by Whit Thomas Harris Productions, Touchstone Television, Disney, or any of its subsidiaries. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only.
All names, pictures, audio, and video clips of the Golden Girls are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of their respective trademark and/or copyright holders.